Yes, indeed. Welcome into another episode of Total Hockey Now here on the Total Hockey Now YouTube channel. That man over there is at Ant Rivera 86. The man all the way over to his right is at Fuzzy Chris 91, Christopher Merez. I am at Pucking Thoughts, Adam Bernard, and we will be with you here to preview the two Stanley Cup playoff games tonight in the NHL. We got a little game two action in Washington between the Hurricanes and the Capitals, and then later on the Oilers and the Golden Knights in Vegas. Going to go through those. We'll go through two Friday games tomorrow as well. Conn Smythe Odds, coaches, all that good stuff. Fellas, how we doing?
I mean, just vibing and thriving, really. Look, playoffs are off to a great start. It's been a wild, I think it's been a wild 7 days since we were last here. I think a lot of things have happened. The hockey gods just gifted us some fantastic hockey of late, and I'm really thankful for them. I'm glad that they gave us an absolute treat to watch last weekend, and hopefully this weekend they do the same.
Yeah, as we went off the air, getting ready for 2 game 7s that pretty much lived up to the hype that we wanted them to. A lot of storylines were involved. No, I know we're ahead of that, and we're not going to get too much into that. But when you're talking about the playoffs and sports and the big games, Game 7 in the Stanley Cup playoffs is no bigger, I think. Like, we already know that the Stanley Cup has the best playoff system and has the best almost all right best playoff how do you say it? It's the better of all the sports. Is that a better way to put it?
We can phrase it like that.
Yeah, maybe I phrased it wrong, but when you get to see a Game 7 and the way those 2 Game 7s played out with the storylines and everything, I mean, we got a treat. That, just like Chris said, we got an absolute treat this past weekend.
And if one Mikko Rantanen hat trick wasn't enough for you in a big game, he followed that up in Game 1 against the Jets last night with another one. Natural hat trick in the second period. We'll talk Stars Jets later. Like I said, we'll also talk about the Rangers hiring Sullivan, Ducks and Quenneville pretty linked up right now. Also, the Kings got rid of Rob Blake. We'll save that stuff for the end. We're going to go through the games tonight, the games tomorrow, and the Conn Smythe odds. And I don't know. Let's take a look at the bracket right now as we see there. And you see how the series go right now. Everybody's in Game 2 coming up, except for Leafs-Panthers, as Chris said before. What a week! What a difference a week can make. Because a week ago we were like, all right, how many games for the Panthers? And here they are going back to South Florida, down 0-2 to the Maple Leafs. Not in trouble yet. We'll talk about that series later. But that is the way the bracket looks right now. And then first up tonight, we got the Capitals and the Hurricanes there. And we coming into the series, and we previewed it last Friday. We discussed how Carolina was already the series favorite. Capitals weren't getting much love. Again, not really much changing there. The fact that Washington in 7 is plus 700, and everything Carolina to win the series are shorter odds than that. Yeah, not a lot of respect there for the Capitals, and I don't think they played that bad in Game 1. So, for me tonight, I'm looking at I love the Capitals on the money line. I think they bounce back. And another thing I would consider too, looking at that, maybe over, despite the fact that the goalies have been low lately. I feel like we're maybe due for some net crashing and for some offense between these two.
Tonight seems like a perfect night for taking the total over 5.5 on goals, and the game being about 4-3, 5-3, 5-4, something like that. I think we're due, considering that Game 1 was only 3 goals scored totally. So I think that we'll see some goals scored tonight for sure.
I don't believe that. I don't believe we're going to see a ton of scoring action here. The Carolina Hurricanes demonstrated why they are one of the better defensive teams in the NHL. The Capitals generated just no offense in Game 1. They looked dead for large periods of time in that game. I expect them to be better. I expect them to push the play, but I don't expect that to lead to a ton of offense. At least not something. Maybe I get burned by the empty net goal here. But I do think this is going to be a tight matchup here. Carolina is just really strong defensively. Capitals didn't necessarily steamroll the Montreal Canadiens in their first round when it came to goals. They were able to generate quality chances, but I think that's because they were playing such a not as well structured team in the Canadiens. So I would go with the under here. I don't see this being a high scoring game. Not at all. Washington had 14 shots in that first game, and they played like 4 minutes of overtime as well. It's just not enough for me, man.
So it looks like today is going to be Anthony and me link up, and Chris is on an island. It's been me on an island the last couple of weeks. So good to see those fortune changing. Yeah, and I know Freddie Anderson has given up 1 goal or less in 4 of his last 5. Logan Thompson 2 or less in 5 of his last 6. So both goalies playing well, as you mentioned. Hurricanes playing strong defense. And they're built to play the Capitals. That being said, you said you weren't that impressed with the Capitals in Game 1. That's kind of why I think they bounced back tonight, because they didn't get their best hockey in Game 1. It's tough to get going against a team like the Hurricanes, but again, I think the Hurricanes are going to win the series. I think the fact that the Hurricanes are minus 166 road favorites, Capitals plus 149 home dogs is a stretch. I mean, again, I think the Hurricanes win the series, but they're not going to sweep them. I don't think it's going to be a 5-game series. Washington's got to win some games at some point. So I think Washington gets it home tonight and at least gets the series even going down to Raleigh. And this just everything points to the under. So this feels like a zag when I should zig kind of thing. I feel like this will be one of the only high scoring games of the series, but it's ready for that. I like the over 5.5 there, low total. Why not attack it?
Nope. No. I don't disagree. Just no.
Now for the series, what are we thinking here in terms of, I'm still on Carolina. I would do Carolina in 6. I think that's that and 5 are the shortest odds there for a reason. And I think when it's all said and done, I think the Capitals do get a couple of games here. But I still think the way the Hurricanes are playing, the way they're matched up, as long as Freddie Anderson stays healthy, Carolina in 6.
Well, that's asking a lot. So he did get a new contract. So clearly Carolina believes that his body can handle at least 1 more year of hockey. I will say this. I do agree that the Capitals being, I guess I would say heavy underdogs here, but underdogs on home ice, that's a little bit of that's a lot here. I probably would swallow minus 166 road favorites, even though the Hurricanes looked very, very good in that first game. I do believe the Capitals will adjust a little bit. I do believe that they can make this a series. They have to win tonight in order to have any possibility of winning this series in 6 or 7. If they don't, it probably looks like Carolina's going to take this series in like 5. So it's either Carolina in 5 or like Washington in 6. If I was I'm not quite sure yet how I want to go here. This series is a lot closer than I think a lot of people expected it to be. That first game, yes, maybe Logan Thompson came up big, but I don't think we've seen the peak of this series just yet.
I'll say Washington in 7. Go against the grain here. I'm not buying into Carolina just yet.
Are you salty that they beat the Devils?
Yeah, a little bit. But I mean, I had them beating the Devils. The series felt a little bit closer than it was. Not by games, obviously, but I felt like, given the way that they played each other, given all the injuries that the Devils had, it should have been a runaway for Carolina. They didn't, and now you're facing a better team in the Capitals, and I think they'll win in 7.
And, I think that's also, maybe what's going on with the Capitals here a little bit too is, I'm not knocking the Canadians, but there is a step up, at least in the quality of the opponent. Maybe there's a little bit of an adjustment period for Washington going against a young and up and coming team like Montreal versus a very playoff season grizzled team, well-coached Hurricane squad that, has they get to the conference finals. We know that they get there a fair amount. They just don't get over that hump. But there we go. So a couple of us are on Washington and the over tonight. Chris likes the under here. May lose it on an empty netter, but there's your at least some picks for the first game there. Now looking at the back end tonight, you got the Oilers and the Golden Knights. At some point you got to think that the Edmonton Oilers falling behind in a game is going to burn them, but at least for now, it's not the way they've been coming back. So they get the 4-2 victory, scoring 4 unanswered goals, with 3 of those coming in the third period. You look at the series odds there. Edmonton now the favorites, -230, Vegas +195. Shortest exact or correct series score right now is Edmonton in 6, followed by Edmonton in 5, then Vegas in 7, Edmonton in 7. So right now, and looking at tonight for the game here, you're looking at a Vegas -133 favorite there versus Edmonton +119 on the road, with the total being 6.5. When we take a look here at game 2, what are you expecting tonight, Chris, in terms of just the overall pacing of the game?
Chaos. That's what I'm rooting for here. I mean, what a start for the Vegas Golden Knights. They got out quick, they scored goals, and we're like, oh man, here we go again with the Oilers not being able to provide 2 generational talented players with any kind of goaltending. And then it feels like the Oilers just wait till the third, and then they decide now is when we're going to play hockey. Now is when we're going to take it to them. And there's only so many times you can play with fire before you get burned. And I mean, again, as good as those players are, at some point you have to play with the lead. Just make life easier for yourself. So I'm definitely going with the over here, because look, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? I got the over at 6 last time. I was able to get it as well today. I was fortunate for the push there. But again, this just feels like I have no faith in Calvin Pickard, and just watching the way Adin Hill played that first one, I still don't feel comfortable with what's going on. Alex Pietrangelo seems to still be dealing with whatever he is dealing with. He is a game time decision tonight. That is a big loss on the blue line. Dorofeev is not going to play. He is out of the lineup. It's too rich for me to take the Oilers. They're not big enough underdogs here. I feel like it's correctly priced as to where it should be. This is I know it's used a lot, but this is a must-win one for the Kings. You cannot expect to go into Edmonton and win 2 games, considering how you played all year in the regular season on the road. So you can't do that. You got to come out here and you got to generate chances. You got to get pucks into that. They basically got to do what they did in the first period. It's just get the pucks to the net. You know they're going to go in. Like, Calvin Pickard is not stopping it. That defense is not good. If you can apply pressure for a good period of the game, you're going to be just fine. Don't fall asleep in the third. That's where I would double down. Go out there and really shove it to them. Just absolutely suffocate them. But it is necessary that the Golden Knights get off to a good start, and then that they maintain it, because they can't fall asleep here. Don't go into that second intermission thinking, oh, now we just got to sit back and protect the lead, because the Oilers basically going, that's where we want them. That's where we want them. But yeah, I would slam the over here. I expect a high scoring one.
5-0 for Calvin Pickard.
5-0. Calvin Pickard. Never thought I'd be hearing that.
I don't care. Martin Jones was once very good too, as well.
But that's the thing. That's the thing about the playoffs. So was
Darcy Kemper as well.
Maybe this is the time for Calvin Pickard. Even if it's just this one playoff series, maybe this is it for him. I had the Oilers. We didn't do our brackets, but I did have the Oilers returning to the Stanley Cup. So that's still in line right now. And obviously, you have to take the over, right? I mean, they're going to give up a lot of goals, and then they're going to score a lot of goals. So that I feel like it's just if you just want to win a couple bucks or something like that, you might as well just take the total over 5.5 every time. I think there was only one game, which was Game 5, where they won the total goals were 4. That was it. Everything else, everything else has been a high scoring game here, and you don't like Chris said, the Oilers having to consistently come back is not a great look. But in the Oilers' heads, they know that they're never out of a game. And only being down 2-0, I mean, that's easy pickings for them. So, yeah, the Golden Knights really need to win game 2 here and even up this series. But like I said, I have the Oilers winning this series. I don't know if it's either 6 or 7, but I'm gonna stick with it. I can't back down now.
So 5 of Edmonton's 7 playoff games have cleared this total and have gone over. So yeah, until you start seeing, and again, it's Calvin Pickard, as Chris mentioned, Aiden Hill. I think maybe they buckle down a little bit tonight. Yeah, I think lean over here, but the bet for me for tonight at least, I think Vegas has to get it done. I don't think they can mess around with overtime. I'm not going to look at the puck line that's getting greedy. You could go money line, you know, at -133, but I think they can get it done in regulation. The regulation win is +105. And another one I'm looking at is Thomas Hertl, anytime goal scorer, +210. Listen, Edmonton's going to try and get their the Janmark line out against the Eichel line that's been playing pretty well. So Hertl on the second line, no Dorofiev coming back, but you know, he kind of goes like where he scores in bursts, and then he'll go like 3 or 4 games without a goal. And then he's been about 3 or 4 games without a goal. So I think maybe he can get up there tonight. If Vegas is going to win, they're going to have to put some pucks in the net, and I think he'll be a part of the mix. So those are the 2 plays I'd be looking at for Vegas Edmonton. Now, looking at the series here, for me, just, you know, I don't know. I picked Vegas to start for the series to advance. I've kind of wavered on that a little bit. I'm not ready to abandon the ship yet, but you know, tonight will determine tonight will go a long way in terms of determining how the rest of the series is going to look. Because if Vegas wins, like, all right, we're back to square one. If Edmonton's going home to up 2-0, I don't know if Vegas can rally from that.
I feel like Edmonton is just playing with house money. They were down 2-0 in the series, came back and won 4-2. They're down in all these games. They keep coming. They just keep coming back until they face a team, which I don't really think there is. And I can't see it in the Stars. I can't say the Stars just yet because they haven't proved it. They're always are going to come back here. I feel like they could beat Winnipeg if they got into the next round. And Dallas, I think they could beat Dallas. I do.
I still got Dallas coming out of the West. That's still
that is some strong Kool-Aid there for Anthony. I listen. I get Calvin Pickard's 5-0 here, and we're trying to think that he's something good here. He's got an .891 save percentage, so he is not the reason he is doing anything good. Goal saved above expected, -0.8. It's not fantastic. It's not as bad as it could be, but I mean, he's not going to make a difference. Calvin Pickard can only hurt you more than he can help you. So right now, he is not the reason his team is doing well. His record is massively flawed. The 5-0 is just a mirage. That's like seeing water in the desert. It doesn't exist. It's there, but it doesn't exist. So I do agree that the Vegas Golden Knights need to figure it out. And once they do, then I think they'll have more success. Once they figure out that all they got to do is get pucks to the net, kind of make Calvin Pickard's life a little bit more difficult, they're going to be just fine. But that probably has to start like right off the rip again, and then it's got to continue all game. You cannot give the Oilers this false sense of, hey, we could come into the third and do whatever we want, because they might.
Vegas, when they went into Minnesota and won Game 6, that showed me something a little bit for a team that wasn't strong on the road this year. So no Pietrangelo or him being a game time decision. If he's not in the lineup, that can hurt. That will definitely hurt. But I think Vegas is a battle-tested team, and I think they know what's at stake tonight. I think they get it done, and we'll see how the series goes from there. Next up is let's stay in the Western Conference. Let's talk about the Dallas Stars and the Winnipeg Jets. Dallas wins 3-2 last night. Natural hat trick in the second period by Mikko Rantanen to get that victory home. Game 2 going to be 9:30 p.m. tomorrow night Eastern time, so not a bad way to kick off the weekend there after the conclusion of Panthers-Maple Leafs. See the current series odds there. Dallas -360, Winnipeg +290. And a little bit Vegas very much favoring the Dallas Stars here. Dallas in 7, Winnipeg in 7, both +600. Dallas in a sweep +380. Dallas in 5 or Dallas in 6 +320. Winnipeg in 5, 18-1. Winnipeg in 6, 10-1. So not a ton of love going the Winnipeg Jets way right now. Before we get to the series, though, why don't we take a look at Game 2? and what we think's going to happen there. What do we think tomorrow night? We thinking about a Winnipeg bounce back spot here, or are we thinking Dallas is going to be taking a commanding 2-0 lead?
I truly believe the Stars could like get this done in 4. This team just looks like they are going to steamroll whoever is in front of them, and I mean just
Except the Oilers.
No. The Oilers. Well, the Oilers would have to make it to the next round in order to get steamrolled, right? So that problem solved right there. Just I don't know what Mikko Rantanen's been consuming. He might be called down for a random drug test soon because Homie was dead in that for the first 4 games of that series, and then all of a sudden he's come to life. He has 8 goals in 8 games. He's added 7 more assists, leads the playoffs in points. He's got 29 shots, so he's shooting the puck a decent amount. I mean, he's not going to maintain his 27% shooting percentage, which is fine. 10 points have come even strength. 5 of them have come on the power play. Like he's everywhere. He's everywhere. And then, Jason Robertson is healthy. And at one point, Miro Heiskanen will be as well. This team is just they're getting better. And we don't even have to talk about Rupe Hintz. We don't even talk about, Jamie Benn, and we don't have to talk about Tyler Seguin, Wyatt Johnson, and all these other guys who are going to contribute as well. Because right now, the focus for the Jets has to be to slow down Mikko Rantanen. You cannot let him. He is feeling it. He is reminding everybody that you don't let elite talent walk for a couple of $100,000 or even $1 million. Yes, it might not be great to have 3 elite, highly paid players on one team, but if you certainly let one walk, they could come back and haunt you. So Rantanen has been just on absolute fire here. And I don't know, man. Yes, Scheifele came back. Who knows, how he feels. Josh Morrissey is the bigger loss there. You have to figure out how healthy he is because that blue line is not I'm not running Luke Shen out there for a ton of minutes. And there's only so much Neil Pionk can play before his legs fall off. And of course, the wild card is what are we going to get out of Connor Hellebuyck. To me, this is a showcase for that starting spot at the Olympics next year. And so far, it's been Jake Ottinger who looks like he's going to get that start. No goalie has a worse goal saved above expected than Connor Hellebuyck. I know most of that came in the first round, but and Jake Ottinger is right there. He's 4th. And I'm assuming he's only going to get better as this series goes on. So I mean, I'd love for the Jets to win, but it just doesn't seem in the cards right now.
Yeah, Stars in 5 for me. I don't think Winnipeg. I'll give them one game. I'll give them tonight. I mean, I'll give them tomorrow night. I'll have them win that game 2 there, and then that's pretty much it. He only gave up 3 goals, which is lucky, right? I mean, Connor Hellebuyck has been just awful during the. Is he right? He's the worst goalie in the playoffs.
Statistically, he is terrible. He is.
He's making Calvin Pickard look like Martin Brodeur.
That's a pretty that sums it up pretty well there. He has been slightly less worse, but I mean, I have no faith in him. No.
It took 0.6 seconds or something for them to tie that game. Otherwise, they were going home, and St. Louis was going to be
1.6.
1.6 seconds. Yeah. And that's against a St. Louis team that really, probably had no right to be there, and they figured out a way. So, yeah, this is a way better team. Like Chris said, they're getting healthy. I think that Dallas takes care of business quite quickly against this Winnipeg team here, but they'll get Friday night.
Dallas in 5, Dallas in 6, the 2 shortest odds there. It's going to be one of those 2. For everything you guys just said, this is a step up in opponent from the Blues from last round. That's not a knock on the Blues, just the Stars, one of the top teams in the league. And Winnipeg barely, like you said, they barely got by the Blues. They had to, have a last second heroics just to even get the opportunity to do that. Hellebuyck is supposed to be their backbone. Hasn't been that, hasn't played that way. And, the thing we talked about in the past, Colorado's issue is they didn't have depth. They addressed it. Obviously they didn't get out of the first round. It's because they ran into the Stars. Winnipeg, as good as they are, their depth is getting exposed in a playoff series, and they're pretty much proving that they very much go as Connor Hellebuck goes. When he has 45 wins in a regular season, yeah, they're going to win the President's Trophy, no problem. But come playoff time, when he can't, buckle down and even be, let's say, 80 to 90% of the Hellebuck that, you get in the regular season, there's your problem. You lose Mark Scheifele, and now all of a sudden Vladislav Nemesnikov is your top line center. That's not getting it done in a playoff series, especially when you're playing teams like Dallas. So, that being said, looking at a Dallas in 5 or a Dallas in 6 there, looking at tomorrow night's game 2, sounds like Ant's got them that's going to be the game that he's going to give them tomorrow. And I would tend to agree with that. If you looked at game 2 in the last series against St. Louis, that was a 2-1 final for Winnipeg. They buckled down after a high-scoring, wild game 1. Not that game 1 in this series was high-scoring, but 3-2 for these two teams is starting to border on a high-scoring, considering, the two goaltenders. Crazy that, we're talking about an audition for Team USA next time around, and Ottinger's winning it. And he did not play well down the stretch, but he has certainly rebounded and is playing well enough for what Dallas needs, considering what he's got in front of them. Tomorrow night, Winnipeg money line, I would take that. Total, I'd probably stay away from that because I could see that maybe being a 4-2. But yeah, I think Winnipeg gets, if they're going to win one game, it's tomorrow. If they're going to win 2, it's going to, 2 games in the series, one of them has to come tomorrow.
I'll take the Stars. When I can get them at plus money, that seems fair. The Jets are not. There's not enough confidence. I don't trust them enough yet. I don't trust the Jets to do what they need to do. So I'll take the Stars money line.
So you have to. You have them sweeping.
Yeah, so you don't have a choice. You got to. And you can hedge, but
I could. But no, look. If I can get the Stars at plus money, that seems like a pretty good bet. I think that's okay.
Yeah, if Winnipeg is winning, it's Friday at home. They are not. I don't see them winning in Dallas. I just don't. Not with that crowd out there. Not with the way Hellebuck's been playing. Not the way Dallas is getting healthy and Rantanen is on a mission to show Colorado that, yeah, you made a mistake here. So could you just imagine like the run he's about to go on and Colorado now sitting back after he basically eliminated them? that was a one-man show right there. So, and he doesn't seem to be done. He had the hat trick and he's coming for blood is what it feels like.
He's also now the odds-on favorite for the Conn Smythe Trophy after last night's performance, leapfrogging Connor McDavid. We will get to that later. So Chris has got the Jets tomorrow, and I guess, that, like I said, it's going to be the theme of the day. Me and you are linked up. We're on Winnipeg tomorrow, but Dallas in 5 for the remainder of the way there. So looking at the last series we need to get to here, Toronto being up 2-0, I don't know how many people thought that was going to happen, thought maybe they'd get a split best case scenario. But here we are going back to South Florida, a couple of 1-goal victories for the Maple Leafs at home. Game 3 tomorrow night, 7 o'clock Eastern time. Looking forward to that one. Florida has been a step behind Toronto these first couple of games, but I think what we're going to be seeing tomorrow is I don't think Toronto's going to be taking a 3-0 commanding lead. I think Florida, now that they're going to get the matchups they want, I think they will at least keep this going here and at least get tomorrow, and then we'll see about the rest of the series. I do kind of like the under here for the reasons that I said about them getting the matchups here. 5 straight overs for Florida, 3 of them are losses, and lost to 2 overs prior to that. So I think they know they got to buckle down and take things and keep things low scoring for them to have a chance, because when they give up goals and get into a track meet, especially against a team like Toronto, it's not going to work well for them.
I feel like even if, let's say they do go up 3-0, I still don't feel like Florida's out of this. I think more pressure is actually on Toronto to get things done, just like last series. And they went up 3-0. They lost 2 games to the Senators. And I feel like Florida is a way better team than that, of course. What does Florida really have to lose in this series? I mean, obviously, outside of getting knocked out, but they've been to back-to-back Stanley Cups. They've won one. They know what it takes to come back from a series. And really, they could just put a lot of pressure on the Maple Leafs to get things done. I don't think this series is over, even if it's 3-0. I just don't think it's done.
First of all, can we talk about the NHL scheduling a game on a Friday and a Sunday with the Leafs? Like, just an absolute miss here to schedule them on a Saturday night because, as they have said, we could not have Montreal on a Saturday night because we had to accommodate the Battle of Ontario. Now that battle is over, they're playing Florida. They're just like, oh, okay, well, we'll have nothing really on a Saturday. Again, no offense to the Carolina and
Washington.
and Washington. Absolutely no offense to them. But I mean, come on. I had Florida in 5. So off the rip, that's not a good start. This series, I do believe, is far from over. It doesn't look like Anthony Stolarz is going to travel to Florida. So that means that his concussion is probably a little bit more serious than maybe some people think it was. And it was, right? I also don't think it's the Sam Bennett hit that caused it. I think it's that absolute whale of a shot that he took. Getting bumped probably didn't help either. But I know some people want to crucify Sam Bennett right off the rip. And listen, he's notorious for doing things that he shouldn't be doing. But I agree with you here. I do think you're never in trouble until you lose a game at home. So now the Panthers got to go home and they got to earn it. They played well in game 2. They didn't win. They didn't win. This is like Sergei Bobrovsky's got to be better. He's got to be a lot better, and he's got to find a way to get things done. The Leafs are getting a lot of contribution from secondary players, right? Willie Nylander is an absolute stud. I'm old enough to remember when Leaf fans wanted him to be out, when he wasn't worth the money and he should have been shipped out. And you keep, Tavares, and you keep Matthews, and you keep Marner. He's the guy who is consistently performing in the playoffs. You can talk about his back check all you want. When it comes time to put the puck in the net, he is doing so. He is second in the NHL behind only Mikko Rantanen in points. So this team will go as far as he can drive it. Max Pacioretty all of a sudden has been good in the playoffs. Could have used that like 10 years ago, but alas, here we are. Max Domi is scoring goals. They're getting a lot of good contributions, but this blue line is still not very good. And I don't know how much I trust Joseph Woll to get the job done. It was unfortunate for the Panthers. They probably should have had a different outcome. But just go home and take care of business. It's as simple as that. You got to go home. You got to take care of business. A lot of people feel like that's going to happen here. The Panthers are minus 220. That is that's a swallow and a half there. That is some. Listen, as much as I think they win, if they don't, sprinkling a little bit on the Maple Leafs, a plus 195 after what they've done at home, it's not terrible. Problem is when the Leafs go on the road, they just don't generate enough offense. They don't. Austin Matthews does not score on the road. He is a great facilitator, apparently, but the Maple Leafs just don't generate the same type of play on the road. I don't know how much I trust Joseph Woll. I know that he was once able to, but Anthony Stolarz has been a lot better since he has showed up. He is good. So I will not swallow the Panthers minus 220. I will sprinkle on the Leafs at that point because that's just way too much value for a team that's won 2 games. But I agree. The series is not over. Panthers got to get to work here. Take what you did in game 2. Keep applying it to game 3. Get a lot of traffic in front of the net. Circulate that puck. Make life difficult for Joseph Woll and make those defensemen move. It's Oliver Ekman-Larsson. It's Simon Benoit. It's these are not the elites of the elites there. You could expose them if you really get them moving.
Looking at the regulation line, the Panthers are already minus 140 to win in regulation. So a lot of money coming in on Florida to get things done at home. And I get it because, now you can have the Lundell, Luosterainen, Marchand line be out there and getting the matchups you want at the times you want them. And yeah, Bobrovsky did not play well in game 2. He's going to hopefully be playing a better game 3 for them. So all the signs point for Florida to bounce back at home. I think, like Ant said, the pressure is more on Toronto here to try and take a lead, especially now, like you said, Chris, without Stolarz, who's been a better goaltender for them. How much do you trust Joseph Woll? Does he have a meltdown at some point? Yeah, I think Florida. I think we're going back to Toronto even 2-2 for Game 5. Now, looking at the series odds here, what do you think here in terms of Florida? It's either Florida in 6 or Florida in 7. They can't do it in 4 or 5 anymore. Shortest odds, Toronto in 5 at plus 300. Then next on the list would be Toronto in 4, Toronto in 6 plus 475. No, excuse me, Toronto. Florida in 7 is the second shortest at plus 400. So, like you said earlier, it's either the Toronto Maple Leafs take care of business quickly, or the longer this goes, the better it is for Florida.
Yeah, I would probably look at Florida in 7, just because I don't think they reel off 4 in a row here, not after the performance that they put here. The current series odds too, I think, is pretty good. If you can get Florida at plus 190 today, again, if you're going to believe that they can win in 6, might as well hedge yourself a little bit here. Take them to actually win the series in case it doesn't go to 7. But I'm not yet sold on this Toronto team. They have played well. They've done what they've needed to do, but I don't think it's been fully them being much better. I think it's a little bit of the Panthers not playing the way that they're supposed to. They have another level. They can get in your face. They have a lot of guys who could disturb the peace, and they also have guys who could play exceptionally well defensively, and they don't have to rely on Barkov to do, most of the heavy lifting here. You could get him some freedom with Reinhart. I'd like to see Matthew Tkachuk get a little bit more involved as well. Maybe they create one of those like big top lines, kind of get things rolling here. But there's still another level to Florida's game that they can get to, whereas I don't think there's another level to Toronto's game. Like I think we've seen as good as this team can perform, whereas we haven't seen that with the Panthers.
You're talking about the reigning Stanley Cup champions back-to-back going to the Stanley Cup against a team who has really yet to prove and get out of their own heads in the playoffs. And yes, they got out of the first round, but now you're playing a heavy hitter right now. I'm taking Florida in 7. I think that Toronto wins at least one more game. It does favor right now the Panthers that are going back home, so they can easily tie the series back up and win at home here. But I do think Toronto, whether it's at home for game 5 or, one of these games or even game 6, but this is going 7, and I'm going to stick with the Panthers here.
I'm going to say, and listen, coaching has made a difference for the Maple Leafs this year with Craig Berube. There's definitely a different vibe on the team, different way they carry themselves and play on the ice, and it's helped. Like you said, the pressure's on Toronto here to try and get one of these 2 games in Florida, because if Florida gets 2 in a row, now momentum's on their side. And then the pressure is really on the Maple Leafs going home to game 5 with Florida having won 2 in a row, and now the series starting to shift the way people expected. So I'll say Florida in 6. I think if they get both in Florida, they'll get the next 2. Because if they get Toronto in game 5, Toronto's not going to win a game 6. So I think Florida in 6 is the way to go here, plus 550. Again, Florida played well. Like Chris said, they didn't play bad in game 2. They just didn't get the win. They were better than they were in game 1. I think Florida gets back to their winning ways here, and they play better hockey here. And we're looking at a Panthers and, I guess, Hurricanes conference finals is what I'll have.
I mean, that's good enough for me. I'll take it. It's not what the NHL ratings want, but I mean, I could care less what Gary wants right now.
From a rating standpoint, I mean, you can't count the Toronto market in the United States, but Ovechkin versus the Maple Leafs would be pretty good. The Panthers, obviously, it's more about they want yeah, I would think Panthers is what they want, just because defending champs, the household name, the Kachucks, all that stuff. So yeah, I think that's what they would want out of that series. Out west, they just want Winnipeg out. That's all they want.
Which is
they're going to get,
which they might get. Unfortunately, if Winnipeg keeps this up,
I think they will get it. I don't think there's any might in that. I think that I don't think if they beat Dallas, then I will be totally shocked. If they beat Dallas,
they come back and win that series, it'll be something. I mean, they had to claw and fight their way just to hang on with St. Louis, home team winning every game in that series. So now let's take a look at the Conn Smythe odds here. Again, a little, I like to look at them early in the playoffs because this is where you get a little value here. The deeper you get, the tougher it is to make any money there. So Mikko Rantanen basically cut his odds in half. I think he was like 10-1 or 11-1 before game 1 last night. And now is at the odds on favorite at plus 550. Then it's McDavid at plus 700. Draisaitl at 12-1, Sebastian Aho and Freddie Anderson at 15-1, Jake Ottinger 16-1, William Nylander 17-1. Then we start getting into the 20-1s here with Mitch Marner, Jack Eichel at 22, Jarvis at 25, Austin Matthews at 25. Not going to run down through the whole right side. Connor Hellebuck all the way down at 45-1. So if you think that he is going to have a resurgence and carry this team all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals. Go put a bet on him now at 45 to 1 to win the Conn Smythe.
You know which one I'm going to put a little bit of money on? That's 17 to 1 on William Nylander.
They get that far, sure. It's a good play. Chris did not like that. You can tell by the look on his face.
It's good value, that's for sure. I agree with that there, but again, you got to get there. And again, I don't think that's going to happen. A lot of disrespect here for Logan Thompson, man. Just 50 to 1 is a choice, man. It is a choice. If Logan Thompson today has the best goals saved above expected, which is at 7.7. The second is Freddie Anderson. So Freddie Anderson's at 15 to 1. And then what? Logan Thompson just dies? That's it. That is disrespect. That is a lot of disrespect here.
And Helly's above him.
Yeah, which is saying something because Hellebuck has the worst goals saved above expected. So I that's where I would spread. Listen, 50 to 1, you don't have to do much. You know what I mean? You don't have to spend a lot. You could spend a loony or a tootie and you're gonna be okay. So 50 to 1 is probably right. And it's not a tough-ish path for the Washington Capitals to get to the finals, right? Like it's not easy. But I believe if they get there, Logan Thompson will have a big part of that. So I am very much okay with that. Mikko Rantanen obviously being the odds-on favorite here at this point makes sense. I don't think anybody's going to challenge you for that. I will say this, a little bit of Jack Eichel would be pretty good. 22 to 1 seems a little bit far. Mark Stone as well. We know he has he has it in him for the theatrics, and coming up big when you need it. He was very, very instrumental in that first game. They didn't win, but he was there. So the 40 to 1 there, 22 to 1. I think you can get some good value on Vegas right now. They're not going to get cooked. So that's where I go. The McDavids and the Draisaitl's and the Rantanens are, those are the free ones, right? You take them up front. I just don't want McDavid and Draisaitl battling out against each other. That just seems hard there. I guess all the rest of the Dallas players kind of lose out, right? Like Jake Onger is not going to get it, right? I just, Wyatt Johnson's not going to get it just because of, where Mikko Rantanen is sitting right now. So yeah, that's right. 50 to 1 though for Logan Thompson. That is something.
I think Ottinger could potentially take it from Rantanen if he had a couple of shutouts, memorable performances, big late saves. He's the only one at this point. There's no Dallas skater that's taking it from Mikko Rantanen. Not Wyatt Johnston, not Rupe Hintz, Sagan, none of them. It's if Dallas wins the cup, it's either Rantanen or Ottinger at this point. I agree. Mark Stone, great value at 40 to 1 because again, yeah, I have Edmonton winning the series, but to me that's still probably that's still one of the closest ones remaining there. Vegas could easily bounce back tonight, win the series. I still think Dallas comes out of the West, but things happen. What if Mikko Rantanen gets hurt in Game 5 of this series or something like that? You never know. So yeah, Stone would be a good way to go if you don't want to go for Jack Eichel there. It's really no. I mean, Matthew, if you think Florida can repeat, Matthew Tkachuk at 40 to 1. You're probably not going to get anything better on him at this point, or even Barkov at 35 to 1. One of those two guys, if Florida wins, is going to be likely. So those would be two I'd look at.
Yeah, the Matthew Tkachuk one seems like a pretty good one. Again, I'll reiterate it as I do. He is the straw that stirs that drink. So if they make it all the way to the end, probably is going to come down to the team that wins, right? Which is why I feel like these are still a stretch for guys like Mark Stone, for Jack Eichel. I could see them winning Stanley Cups. I don't know if they're the odds-on favorite for it, but Matthew Tkachuk sitting at 40 to 1 is also some pretty good drink there.
Absolutely. All right, so we got our picks there for the because like you said, Rantanen, McDavid, Draisaitl. I mean, sure, go ahead and place a bet on them, but I mean that's not really taking much of a stretch there for a good reason though. So there we go. We'll take a look at the Conn Smythe odds again in a couple of weeks here on Total Hockey Now, and we just some coaching news to get to before we wrap things up and say farewell. We will be off next week. I will be taking a family trip, so won't be around to do the show. So some good playoff action by the time we get back. We'll be in the conference finals. But let's start. The LA Kings got rid of Rob Blake. After 8 seasons as GM with the Kings, guess blowing a 2-0 series lead, and you don't want to get rid of the coach you just hired and took the interim tag off after last season. So Rob Blake, the scapegoat there. He also got out of the box on Rip and Riff today on the Figure 5. So here's Rob Blake and Kings defenseman form from back in the day. I'm not surprised that there had to be a shakeup after what happened there. I know the Oilers were the favorites, but there was a lot of people who really thought the Kings were going to have that series because of the way they played at home, and just didn't go that way. So yeah, something had to change there. I don't necessarily mind that shakeup.
No, he had to lose. Somebody had to lose their job, and I mean, people have been crying for Rob Blake to get canned. So feels like a good time to do that. If you're not going to fire a coach, you just, like you said, you just took the interim tag off a year ago. So shame on Rob.
Yeah, is it because they lost the series, or they've lost 4 years in a row, right? Has it been 4 years in a row now to Edmonton? And this was their best. Everyone was saying this was the best opportunity possible for the Kings to take out the Oilers, and zilch, nothing.
They were ripe. They were ripe for the taking, and they had the 2-0 lead. Yeah, like you said, for half of Rob Blake's tenure, he goes home in the first round at the hands of Edmonton. You can only lose to one team so many times before a coaching change happens. I mean, you look at college football. If you're the coach of Michigan or Ohio State, you lose 2 in a row to one of the other ones in 2 years in a row. It doesn't matter how well you do otherwise, you might be out. So there we go. So that's a new GM. They look for the new GM there in LA. Staying in the Southern California area, it's looking like Joe Quenneville is going to be the next coach of the Anaheim Ducks. Obviously, there's that history there with the tainted time with the Chicago Blackhawks. I think for Quenneville, it's a best case scenario that he went to a team like Anaheim because, yes, it'll get talked about, but that'll go away quickly as the coach of the Ducks. Had he taken a position with a Canadian team or like a Philly, Boston, we talked about this on Rip and Riff earlier today. Philly, Boston, like a Pittsburgh, a city that has hockey, it would linger on a little more. In Anaheim, I don't think people are going to be talking about it by the time they drop the puck in October.
Yeah, that's fair. Again, NHL teams continuing to recycle coaches. They don't have to. You could have gone down a lot of different paths, and it seems like, bad teams stay bad because management keeps them bad. And that's, it's not a hiring they needed to make. There are lots of qualified candidates to fill that spot. Apparently, that's the guy they wanted. So, but like you said, yes, the good news is he's going to Anaheim, where hockey is not the number one subject. It will get forgotten at some point because it's Anaheim. You're probably not going to stay up and watch them unless you're a degenerate like me. So, I mean, look, we'll see what that does. But I mean, Verbeek's statement also today about it wasn't very convincing. So. Yeah, bad teams stay bad because management keeps them bad. There's no two ways around that.
Quenneville's kind of become a bridge coach. I feel like he's going to be the guy to kind of get some of these young guys to, I still think he's a good coach. Other stuff, just putting that in a vacuum.
But is he really is he really the bridge guy, or is he the guy that takes the veterans to the playoffs? Like here, you're right. He is going to be the bridge guy here because this team is not going to be good for a while. But is that is it the right time to put him in place?
And listen, I think Greg Cronin was not a popular guy in the locker room, and I think that kind of factored into why, he was gone a little. But Anaheim was actually playing better hockey and decent hockey the last, I'll say, 6 weeks of the season. Sometimes that's just attributed to, okay, we're past the deadline. Everybody knows they're here. People can just go out and play free hockey and play better that way. But Anaheim was progressing in the right direction. I don't know. Are they a playoff team? I mean, St. Louis had to win what? They had a 12-game winning streak and had to win however many they won down the stretch just to get that last spot. So there is an open spot in the West. Utah was
also
16
more points though.
Yeah, because they went on a 12-game winning streak. How many times is that going to happen for St. Louis? So I think that playoff spot's open. Maybe Quenneville can get them there with the right mix. I mean, we still got to look at the blue line a little bit there. They need to grow. Dostal had his moments where he looked good, and Dostal had his moments where he looked not so good. So we'll see how he bounds next year. But, again, I don't mind the hiring there. They went with that's we'll say a lesser known name last time. So this time you're going to try and bring in some name value.
They are not a playoff team. I don't know, like, who needs to hear this twice. This is not a playoff team. This is a team filled with chaos, and I'm in.
Like you said, some late night hockey to watch.
Yeah,
minus 42 goal differential. The Canucks were better than them, and I'm pretty sure they'll be again. Flames, they could probably take another step in their run. You still got the Oilers, Kings, Golden Knights. I mean, I'm pretty sure the Utah Mammoth will be better. So there's just too many teams right now outside of the Blackhawks and the Sharks. And the Kraken could probably, I know they finished worse, but probably the Kraken could probably be better than the Ducks.
They changed coaches. I don't know what to think about. I think the Kraken are heading down more than they're heading up at this point. I think that playoff season, not to call it a fluke, they just kind of caught lightning in the bottle for that one season, and they beat the Stars, and everybody was like, it was kind of like when the New York Jets went to 2 straight AFC championship games, and people thought, oh, this is a good team. No, they just got good bounces, and they got momentum along the way. They didn't add to it because they thought they had a better team than they did. And what happened? They fell on their face. I think that's kind of what happened to the Kraken to a degree, where they're like, oh, we're closer than we think. No, you're not. You just got lucky against Dallas that round, or against Colorado or whatever it was. You pulled off the upset. So
they should take a page out of the Golden Knights book. They've had the staying power since they've come into the league.
And then lastly, the Rangers hire Mike Sullivan, and a not surprising move at all. I'm fine with it. I know it's quote unquote a retread, but there's history there. Sullivan was an assistant coach in New York under John Tortorella when they went to the Stanley Cup in 2012. If you're gonna bring in a guy that's quote unquote a retread, that was the guy to bring in for the Rangers. It's gonna maybe have some accountability for the locker room, some respect there, hopefully. For I know Laviolette's a Stanley Cup winning coach, but it had been a while since Laviolette had won one. Where Sullivan's got some more recent ones on his resume. I thought it was the right move. Rangers need to toughen up in the locker room a little bit. Hopefully that's what he can bring to the table, Sullivan.
I think me and Chris said this was pretty much a lock even before, like in our chat, we were like, this is pretty much a lock that Sullivan's going to be the head coach. Gallant, Laviolette, what was it? Quinn was the other one? David Quinn before that. What do they all have in common? The same players on that team. Until they mess around with this roster. And maybe, you know what? Maybe in the first year, maybe Sullivan gets something out of them, right? He's been in the Stanley Cup playoffs. He's won a Stanley Cup, right, with Pittsburgh. Maybe he gets something out of them this first year. After that, I expect the same things to start happening if this roster is not changed.
Well, I mean, they need help on the blue line. That's first and foremost. Nothing's going to change with them until they make some additions and upgrades on the blue line.
I just want the Rangers to lose.
I know.
I don't care how they do
See,
it.
I didn't even come at you like that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I thought that was a little out of left field. I mean, my team
it's not out of left.
They had a miserable finish. They had the worst 2-month stretch of the season out of any team in the league.
And I was obviously,
it's my birthday. I mean, maybe lay off on my birthday a little bit.
I was obviously shedding tears, right? I was obviously shedding tears for the Rangers fans, right? Of course. No, I just listen. Whatever. Basically, like Ann said, you can keep recycling the same. These are good coaches. They've won Stanley Cups, so it's not like they don't know what they're doing. But every time they end up in New York, it just seems like it doesn't work. So I don't know. I mean, it can't be the GM because they just signed him, so he's clearly not the problem. It's so at some point, I mean, it's got to be the players, right? If that's if you're assuming that Drury's not the problem, then and you hired a new coach, somebody on the ice is got that team needs, I don't know, maybe a shakeup or something. Probably.
Well, I mean, that's the JT Miller acquisition. I mean, they made that move more for next year than trying to make a run this year. Because let's face it, Montreal really didn't leave any windows of opportunity to gain ground on them. Columbus was the only one that could keep up with them at that point. Yeah, I think bringing JT Miller in is a step towards trying to toughen up the locker room a little bit, a voice that guys in there respect. the Rangers are a complete and utter wild card going into next year. And then let's also see how this offseason goes with the draft, what gets traded, what happens, all that stuff, because I feel like we're going to have a busy offseason as well.
Is it Chris Drury? Isn't he like good friends too with like Dolan? I don't know if that's like a good thing or a bad thing. I mean, if you consider what happened on the Knicks years back, I feel like it's switched now. I feel like now he's getting a little more invested into the hockey and leaving the Knicks to their management team. And look at how that's turned around for them. And look at where we are right now with the Rangers. Having Chris Drury re-signed, it may be good for now because it shows stability, but because the tie to a James Dolan, I have a little, light inside of my head. Just,
I mean, that's kind of the problem when Dolan likes somebody, is that they'll be around to hang around longer than they will because he just doesn't want to fire his friend, and that's kind of what we got here. Now, listen. They changed the coach. They made a shake up in the locker room. Like you said, stability. You bring the I didn't agree with bringing Drury back, but from a stability standpoint, that's fine. And like Chris had said on a previous episode of Total Hockey Now, you sent the message to the locker room that things are going to be done the way Chris Drury needs to get them done. So either deal with it or, request out. Like, he's going to operate how he needs to operate. He doesn't care about your feelings. And listen, if there are jobs where your boss needs to care about your feelings, and there are jobs where your boss needs to care less about your feelings, and the way that works is the more your salary goes up, the less your boss gets to care. So when you get paid 6 figures, 7 figures to play a sport, your feelings don't matter as much. And I'm not a pro, front office guy, but I'm sorry. Like, you don't like the way Chris Drury was doing things with Gaudreau and Trouba, that's fine. You can you can have a couple of bad games because you want to lick your wounds. You can't have 2 bad months. Grow up.
But now that's where them having to kind of rejigger this roster comes into place, because it's not just the last 2 months. They've been here to that conference, the 2 conference finals, the loss to the Devils in the first round. They've done it all. And a lot of them are still here. So I think it's to that point, like you said, where, front office is in charge, and that's going to be the lay of the law now.
The other thing that the Rangers do have going for them is that the Metropolitan Division went from being, one of the toughest divisions in the NHL to one of the easiest now. Tom Fitzgerald had his press conference today with the Devils. He says there are things they need to do to improve. He recognizes that they're not there yet, and that's good. But you look at the landscape of the Metropolitan. Okay, Washington's going to be good. Carolina's going to be good. We know the Devils are going to be good. Columbus took a step. Let's see if they follow that up this year.
Yeah, let's hope that's not a one-off.
Yeah, and, Pittsburgh is not going to be good for a while. I know they have Crosby, but they're going to linger at the bottom. Philly, let's see what a different season does with Tortorella out of there, who's going to be the coach and all that. They also made some roster shakeups there, but they're not going to be good, I don't think. So, I mean, the division's wide open. That's the one thing the Rangers have going for them. A small improvement could be a big improvement.
And the Islanders got rid of Lou. I wasn't here for that episode, and you know how I ripped Lou Lamoriello all season. Teflon Lou. So now he's gone. They got the draft lottery. Who knows? Maybe they'll be in on Blake to be their general manager. Who knows?
They finally got rid of Teflon, right, on the frying pans for health. And then the Islanders are like, isn't it ironic, though? They get rid of Lou Lamoriello, and then the Islanders win the draft lottery at 3.5. Somewhere, you know what the funniest part is? The first thing I thought about was state of survival, and I hope he sees this, because I was like, man, I mean, I shit on the Islanders more than I should probably, and I'm like, here they are winning this, and I'm like good for the organization, I guess. Like, great. I also thought of that there's a good chance they draft that Schaefer kid who is a defenseman. So that would be great if they did, because that would mean maybe Noah Dobson becomes available. And I did an episode on Softball Podcast a couple months ago about why Noah Dobson will look absolutely fantastic in a Habs uniform. But I also think a lot of players will look really good in a Habs uniform, right? Like, does Sidney Crosby really want to go through a rebuild? You know what I mean? Like, why would you do that? Sid, why don't you come hang out north of the border, closer to Canada, come center of the second line kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like, there's lots of things here. There's lots of players who look good in a Habs uniform. But yeah, good for the Islanders. I didn't think I'd say that at this time of the year, but good for them.
And, I'll say this to Sid in an effort to help my friend here. If you think a city loves you like Pittsburgh now, go deliver a cup in Montreal and see how a city love you.
Listen, man, legends never die in this city, no matter what. So just come and hang out. You don't have to be the best player. But yeah, you can stay at Pittsburgh and just ride out the rest of your years. You know what I mean? But he's clearly not there to collect a paycheck because he's not making enough money. So I don't know. If he wants to hang out there, sure.
I was going to just say the last two times that they got the #1 pick, Rick DiPietro in 2000.
I mean, look,
and
listen,
then
we all make
John
mistakes,
Tavares.
right? Listen, we all make mistakes, right?
I don't know if the mistake was taking DiPietro top overall. The mistake was giving a goalie with a history of hip and knee issues a 15-year contract, because DiPietro for a little while was a very good goalie for them. You don't take goalies top overall. That line of thinking has long gone away. But yeah, the 15-year contract was. I remember the day that news broke, and I was like, why?
Listen, you can take goalies first overall. I mean, one of them's heading to the Hall of Fame. I absolutely love too that Fleury's like, hey, I'm retiring. But he's like, why don't I just go play hockey at the World Championship for the first time? He's like, I haven't done that. Sid's going. Over under like what, 3.5 pranks minimum? Like, I know he's going there for the vibes. Like, he's going to hang out. I know Jordan Binnington has said he wants to go, which is great. But man, I don't think Fleury's going there just to sit. Like,
No.
he's not going there to just hang out. He probably has, I can be like, hey man, do I have a legitimate shot at playing a couple games or not? Or maybe he's not ready yet to be at home full time. Maybe he just wants to go hang out and cause havoc.
I mean, listen, it's not a Stanley Cup or an Olympic gold medal, but taking a world championship as your swan song on your way out the door, and you get to skate off the rink with one of your best buddies of all time, Crosby. There are worse ways for a career to end.
No, that's indeed. Look, he hasn't won one, right? There's only, there's another place on his mantle for another award. Why not? Good for him.
Going back to the draft lottery for a minute, the Sharks will be picking second. So they're in that lovely spot of they can take whoever falls to them there.
Who do you want to see them get, Adam? I heard that this is not really
I want them to trade the pick is who I would like to. I think what he needs to do is, because if they got the top pick, they were going to have to decide Schaefer, Bisa. I know Hagens is in the mix too. I think they're in the perfect spot that they can, whatever the Islanders do, they can decide, do we want to take the leftover of the two? Is there somebody ringing the phone that wants that leftover player from the top two that's saying, hey, give me the pick? He's already said he's open to trading it. And I think you could still get a lot for a second overall pick in this draft. Yeah, maybe there's no Jack Eichel available number 2 in the draft or anything like that. But, I think if he's serious about the rebuild's being done, I'm not going to say he's going to shop the pick, but I think if somebody gives him a good enough offer, he's not going to hesitate to pull the trigger.
I think the Sharks should keep that pick. One, you have to decide if Will Smith is going to be a centerman or not. If you want to play him on the wing kind of thing, you can, right? There are players who transition to the wing after playing center their entire careers. It's definitely easier because then, yes, if you are left with a guy like Haig or Misa, then you can slot them right down the middle, and that'd be great. If by some miracle Schaefer falls to them, then they make that pick no matter what. Because, I mean, let's be honest, Sharks probably need a defenseman after they let Wallman walk, and he's having a pretty good series. So there's not much on the Sharks blue line here. So that's probably who they want. Real unfortunate, man. San Jose was just absolutely miserable, and they couldn't even win the draft lottery. But again, am I crying for them? Absolutely not. I'm just absolutely shocked that the Islanders want it. So
the Sharks ever do to you? I'm not crying for Sharks ever.
I'm not crying. Listen, they got great picks. The vibes are up. The Sharks are living great. They haven't committed any type of crime that needed to be investigated by the NHL. You know what I mean? Like it's fine. They're having a good time. They're going through the rebuild. Good for them. But I don't want them to be elite again. Not yet. Pace out a little bit. But I mean, just they probably needed that first pick this year more than they needed Celebrini pick last year, because they need somebody on the back end. It It is desperate.
And
it
that
is
was
desperate.
the consensus that they would have taken Schaefer had they had the top overall pick, because you got the game changing forward. Now you need the game changing defenseman. But it's very possible they stick and pick, and this is hopefully the last year that they're in the mix for a top lottery spot.
No, they'll be in the mix next year, Adam.
I know.
It's okay.
Maybe they could pull off an Islanders. They'll go down to like 3.5% odds and get it again.
Listen, you need 1.6 seconds to be able to force overtime, 3.5% to win, the draft lottery. This is just like,
it's a shoot your shot kind of time right now.
There you go. Just take it, man. Put together that 10-leg parlay. Like it's right there. You know what I mean? 1.6% of hitting doesn't matter.
Now, we gave all of our picks for tonight and tomorrow's games and leans and all that stuff. So just scroll back in the show if you're jumping in now and want anything for tonight's action with the puck dropping on Capitals and Hurricanes. Less than an hour here. Before we get out of here, we don't forget you can email the show, totalhockeynow@gmail.com. We are off next week, so Slapshot Podcast going to be your home for hockey content here for during the playoffs, as it always is later in the week. What do you got cooking up for this week?
Hoping depending on how close and how quickly these series finishes. I did one earlier in the week. I did one Monday because I had to give the Florida Panthers some praise, and they have let me down since. So I picked my 4 winners. Obviously, they're 100% correct. I played Puck Doku, and that was just absolutely miserable. I felt like the LA Kings. So if you want to cry with me, we can do that together. And I'll do one at the beginning of every series so I can give out, again, 100% correct picks. The first round was an accident. It was a mistake. I'm not always that bad. I expect to rebound in the second. And if I don't, then again, I'm just going to, all or nothing kind of, third round go out here.
I like it. And Subway to Shea podcast, and that's Cubs this weekend. That series getting underway. What do we got going on over there?
I'll be live 10 a.m. on Sunday to kind of do a pretty much of a wrap up of the week that was. They took care of business against Arizona. And now maybe, just maybe, Juan Soto's getting a little bit hot here. He had 2 home runs on Wednesday. So a little bit of good vibes going into this weekend series.
I like it. I mean, maybe not so much the Juan Soto getting hot, but other than that, we like it. And of course, Rip and Riff, new episode dropped earlier today with Jared and myself. We talk a little NBA and NHL playoffs and rip packs from across all of the sports. That was a fun one today. Pulled a couple of good rookies there. You'll have to check that out to find out which ones we got. But that does it for this edition of Total Hockey Now. Like I said, we'll be off next week. I will be bouncing around Disneyland in Southern California, so wish me luck in that regard.
And happy birthday, Adam. You turned what, 27?
I wish. Add another 15 to that.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I mean, if you're saying I look closer to 27 than 42, I'll take that. So
there you go. See?
Thank you. I'm just going to assume that's what you meant. You don't have to confirm or deny it, and we'll just leave it at that. But I'll be celebrating and have a little ice cream cake later with the family, and then I got the 9 o'clock game for my Thursday night league. So hopefully we get a win there. My line mate is telling me I fed him a goal on his birthday. He's going to try and return the favor tonight. So fingers crossed. But 4 at Ant Rivera 86, who's that way or that way, and then at Fuzzy Chris 91, who's that way. I'm at Puck and Thoughts Adam Bernard. Back with you in a couple of weeks here with an all new episode of Total Hockey Now here on the Total Hockey Now YouTube channel.